Hello everyone, this is SleeplessRonin, and today I'm going to be talking about and reviewing the first episode of the brand new animated Star Wars series, The Bad Batch, aka Clone Wars Season 8. Wow. And I mean, wow. Now, I was spoiled to one thing prior to the episode, and I'll get to that later, but there was so much I did not expect in this episode. So before I go any further, let me say that this is an amazing episode. You should go and watch it. And if you haven't watched it, spoiler warning. Big time spoiler warning. Okay, there are 4 major scenes I want to talk about. First is the opening. I kind of feared we'd get an Order 66 as an off-screen element, and it wasn't a heavy fear, just a little bit of a fear. But no, it is front and center, which makes sense. The episode, of course, is titled Aftermath, so, I was kind of thinking maybe after Order 66, but no. We're going to start with Order 66. And I gotta say, I almost had a conniption fit when I heard the name
Jedi Master Deppa Balaba
on screen. Yeah, that's right. Kanan's Jedi Master, Padawan Caleb Dune's Jedi Master. Oh yeah. And he's there too.
My Padawan will be here.
Master!
From Star Wars Rebels, young Padawan Caleb Dune, Kanan Jarrus, is on screen. Which is actually kind of interesting. Because we'd actually had his backstory kind of given to us in comic form in the Kanan Jarrus, The Last Padawan comics. So they rewrote that. That story, toss it, it's gone, done. Not even what happened at all. No, what we have instead is we have what happens in this episode. This is now the real canon. I'm guessing that the comics are just kind of being ignored when they feel like it. Which is fine, because honestly, the comics already feel like they're in a gray space between Legends and canon anyways, because sometimes the comics do awful, stupid things, and sometimes they're good, but I don't know, I've almost given up reading them. Actually, I did tend to give up reading them. They just were so many, just so often. That's just too much to follow. But this is Kanan's backstory from Star Wars Rebels. This is his whole thing. It's good. It makes a lot of sense. And it also began highlighting one of the things I was spoiled on. Before I get to that, though, let's continue on to the second really interesting scene, which is essentially an explanation in canon as to why clone troopers are competent and cool, and stormtroopers are incompetent and not cool. I mean, what it is simply Tarkin doesn't like clone troopers, and stormtroopers are cheaper than clone troopers. Clone troopers are relatively expensive. They'd be bred, trained, equipped, yada yada yada. Tarkin's idea is to take local people and conscript them into a garrison and make stormtroopers that way. So cheap and incompetent.
With the war at an end, the need for future clones is being questioned.
That's interesting.
Clone troopers will be needed to maintain order throughout the galaxy.
Indeed, a service conscription soldiers could provide at half the cost.
What I find is really interesting, though, is that Tarkin is the one making this decision, and not the Emperor. Which means that Tarkin has got an even larger role in the rise of the Empire than I kind of figured. And also makes me want to know, how much does Tarkin know about the Emperor? I mean, does he know he's a Sith Lord? Would he care? He probably wouldn't care, because Tarkin's already an evil man without the Emperor being evil, so, yeah. I don't think it'd make a difference. Still, it was one of those, let's answer in canon a question. Why are clone troopers skilled and cool and stormtroopers sucky and fodder? Because you get what you pay for. Quality clones cost money, and conscripted bozos from every backwater planet in the galaxy are cheap and incompetent, and Tarkin prefers cheap, therefore he gets incompetence. The next scene is the scene that's all about Saw Gerrera, our first character to transition from animation, the original Clone Wars stuff, to live action in Rogue One, and again, he's back to animation now. This is still before his appearance in Rogue One, obviously, because this is the rise of Empire, not the middle of the Galactic Civil War. Now, I think it's really interesting because the scene is not super really special for anything except for, showing that the clones, most of them right here have, are good people, not crosshairs. But I thought it interesting because of the speed in which Saw Gerrera's freedom fighters on Onderon versus the Separatists have rapidly morphed into Saw Gerrera's rebel cell on Onderon against the Empire. I mean, I guess they're not rebels yet, but that's what they're heading towards. I find it very interesting that Saw is already predicting the Galactic Civil War.
The Clone War may have ended. The Civil War is about to begin.
Just after the Emperor has made it into the Empire. I mean, I guess it's understandable. I mean, we can chalk this all up to him being really sensitive to oppression after already being a freedom fighter against the Separatist occupation of Onderon. So maybe he can just sense the Empire is not going to be any different. I imagine that finding out a clone force is coming to assassinate you and kill all of your compatriots is a pretty good sign of an evil empire. But, overall I found it interesting and just a touch weird, but not completely out there. It might have been the most questionable scene in the whole episode, but because of Saw's paranoia, his justifiable paranoia, I'll let it slide. In that scene, though, we got revealed more or less the spoiler I knew was coming. That in so many ways, Crosshair is not going to be a good guy. He's not one of the continuing bad batch, I guess, as it were. Why? Why is that? Well, because we were told there are 5 deviant clones on Kamino. Echo is not a deviant clone, but he's a member of the Bad Batch. He's just all tech screwed up because of the stuff the Techno Union did to him when he was trapped on that one planet. Strixus or whatever. I can't remember the name of the planet off the top of my head. So, who's the 5th clone that's deviant? Well, that's Omega.
A state of heightened awareness is not unusual for an enhanced clone such as herself.
Or as she calls herself, Omega. What?
But Echo's a reg. The 5th is Omega.
I mean, just, what? Yeah. That's right. Omega is the 5th deviant clone. She is the 5th deviant clone. Let that sink in. Also, there is definitely something up with that kid, aside from the fact that she's a female clone. And pay attention to eye color. You can really see the fact that her eye color matches the rest of the clone's eye color. I know it's just the one thing, because she has blonde hair versus their dark hair when they have hair. And obviously, female, and they are male. So, yeah. Anyways, beyond that, there's something else up with her. Big time. She knows things or feels things. She picks up a blaster and can immediately use it for a precision shot. And she knew what Crosshair was feeling or what he's going to do. Is she force sensitive? Is she something else? I mean, at one point in time when they're traveling in the hallway, she is mimicking Hunter. What's up with her? What kind of deviant clone is she? We have a lot to be revealed the course of this season. So, I can't wait to find out. I honestly cannot wait to find out. And you know what? Let me just say, thank you, Dave Filoni, for yet another wonderful animated chapter of the Star Wars universe. I honestly cannot wait for the next episode, which is coming on Friday. And, where this is going to go, we've got 16 episodes up, all total. This is going to be a fabulous ride, I can already tell. And I'm waiting for that episode already. So, what's my overall takeaway? Well, I really enjoyed it. I thought this was a very good first episode. It was a big episode. I mean, it clocked in at over 70 minutes, which is pretty sweet. I mean, when thinking about some of the stuff we get in the Star Wars universe recently with The Mandalorian, we've been getting like 30-minute episodes sometimes, which we'll get back to for the Bad Batch. Obviously, it's animated, but seeing this actually as a full longer than an hour, we got 70 plus minutes, is really impressive. And it was a lot of fun. I mean, it didn't feel like 70 minutes. It felt like we were going at a really good clip. There was a lot constantly in it. And of course, I personally love the whole beginning. I love the scenes with young Kanan. That was just, it really was perfect because Star Wars Rebels is still, to this day, probably my favorite. It is actually my favorite Star Wars animated series. It is one of my overall favorite things from Star Wars, though. Just such a good story all the way through. And so seeing that was extra special. And I am just eagerly awaiting this episode coming up on Friday. So, if you want to catch my review for that one, be sure to subscribe because there's going to be a review for that one as well. And you know what? That's all I've got to say on this. I really enjoyed it. Be sure to subscribe. And this is Sleepless Ronin saying sayonara, and may the Force be with you.